Hey, Kate, what did you eat last night?
I made a cauliflower Alfredo sauce.
Ooh, that sounds new and different.
Yeah, it wasn't the super healthy vegan version, which I made once before that had nutritional yeast in it and no dairy or anything like that. It was like a compromise version, so it still has Parmesan cheese, it still has milk, and it still has butter, but way less of those things and no cream. So it's like the sort of light version.
Yeah.
And it's got a bunch of cauliflower in it. And it was actually really, really tasty.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. The problem was that I put it over this lentil quinoa pasta that I get from Trader Joe's. And it was not the greatest pasta. And so it just felt too healthy with all of that. And steamed broccoli, like instead of, I don't know. So it was just like, But the sauce itself was really good. And if I'd had it over real pasta, I think I would have been happy.
When you ate it, were you thinking, oh, I'm having Alfredo sauce, or you think it was a poor substitute?
Neither.
Okay.
It was...
Because I made a butternut spaghetti squash, and I'm really into this whole thing where you make these things that are supposed to sound like something you've had before, but then they never wind up tasting like the original thing's supposed to taste.
Yeah. This was definitely creamy and Parmesan cheesy. So It definitely felt more like... You know, like if you look at mayonnaise or cream cheese, like the full-fat version's obviously the best, and then the light version is usually almost as good, and then the non-fat version's disgusting. Right? And so this was like
no
that.
doubt.
This was in the middle. It was
right.
It was not as good. I mean, it didn't exactly taste like Alfredo. I'm not sure that I could pick out cauliflower, which is pretty impressive.
That's good. All right. I'll give that a try.
It was creamy and cheesy. Yeah, it was tasty.
All good.
Yeah. What did you have?
I had a jalapeno grilled cheese, which I thought was, it was really, really tasty. It was basically cheddar cheese, red onion, and then the jalapeno was mixed into a mayonnaise sauce. And I think the mayonnaise sauce had something else in it. I think it had a lemon or lime. And then that was all put on fresh baked sourdough bread, which I really loved. And the thing I love about the fact that the jalapeno is mixed into the mayonnaise, it just sort of means that the jalapeno flavor wasn't overpowering, but it got everywhere.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you have sandwiches with just a jalapeno on it, you're like, oh, I got a big jalapeno in this bite, and it cools my mouth.
Yes.
And then nothing in the next bite. So I thought it was really, really tasty.
Yeah, that does seem like a good way to do it. And the acid in the cream would sort of temper it a little.
Yeah, totally. It's super tasty.
Cool. Hello, and welcome to You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Kate.
And I'm Rick.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others.
We are really excited about today's episode, particularly me, because I am pretty certain that if I had to choose a favorite food, it would be cheese. And that, as you know, is our topic today. So I'm really excited to talk about cheese. I've been excited to read about cheese and research cheese and think about cheese and find memes for our Facebook page and articles about cheese. So I am madly and passionately in love with cheese. How about you, Rick?
I've done so much taste testing in preparation for this episode. I'm so excited.
I feel like I've been planning my whole life. I've been preparing my entire life for this one episode.
God, I agree with you. It brings me such pleasure, this food. So I'm very excited to talk about it. And what's so interesting is the prep for this show, when we were talking about some of the things we wanted to talk about, I really had to sit down. And at one point, I even meditated. I was like, why do I like cheese? And I really went in.
Why? I'm dying to know.
Oh, why I like cheese?
Yes. What'd you learn?
I learned, here's the main thing. There's the practical issue of protein. It's a clean protein source, and I didn't really put that together a lot of times. There is such a sensual flavor and feeling when I eat it. I find when you're eating hot, decent to high-end cheeses, it's very luxurious. And if I had to say, if one food was love, I think it would be cheese. So I feel like I'm nurturing myself so well and just taking care of myself when I eat cheese. Because it's very grounding. And this is one of the ideas in Ayurveda, this sister science of yoga, right? This idea that milk is very nurturing because it goes back to our childhood. It's a very primal feeling that getting milk into your body, brings us back to childhood, and it's a very sort of rooting quality. So I think that's sort of why I just adore it. I love it in any shape or form.
I was going to save this for later, but I'm going to say this now because it's such a segue about that nurturing, comforting quality. One of the things that I read about when I was looking at this, it was so fascinating to me, is we know that there are opiate molecules, right, built into the casomorphines, which is a morphine-like compound. At least that's what some researchers say, and that there's receptors in the brain that are the same receptors that heroin and other narcotics attach to, that these opiates attach to. So it has that drug-like experience. They've had those articles about cheese is more addictive than crack, and we can come back to that in a second. But what one person said that I thought was so fascinating was that some research believes that this occurs as a way to ensure that babies, humans, cows, and other animals, continue to nurse during infancy, which helps the survival of the species.
Which is all about life moving forward.
Exactly, and that helps explain why we look so happy when we're nursing and why it feels so good to eat cheese.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So it really is potentially one of those things that brings us back to our earliest primal pleasures.
Yes. The very first
so
things that we experienced and gave us enjoyment, pleasure, and also gave us nutrition, and also we know on some sort of subconscious level that we needed for survival.
Yes, and the bonding. I mean, if we were nursing, we were bonding with our moms and all of that. So it is love. It is nurturing. Yes. It is primal nutrition. So I love that.
Totally.
So I might as well just go ahead and say this other point now, which I find fascinating about this whole addiction thing. So we've talked about in our addiction episodes a couple of years ago about the properties of cheese. So you can go back and listen to those a little more if you want. But an article in Time magazine had a big old but to throw in there.
Really?
Yeah, they say that the evidence is weak that casomorphins, when digested, affect most of us in that way. And the dietitian who made the questionable claim works for an advocacy group called Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, which pushes veganism and urges people to shun cheese.
The minute you said it was written and pushed forward by someone, I was like, where is this going? Interesting.
And when they rated addictive properties of foods, apparently cheese actually ranked somewhere in the middle. It was considered less addictive than sugary processed foods, but more so than steak, eggs, bananas, and broccoli. Duh. But so sugary foods are even more addictive than cheese. And so the whole thing about cheese is that addictive, it's like morphine. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I love that you said that because I'm going to weigh in on maybe not. Because I have to say, I like cheese and I crave cheese, but when I feel like I'm in an addicted mode in relation to food and needing to satisfy the monster at the door, cheese is very rarely that.
Oh, see, it is for me. I would pick cheese over chips, over chocolate, over anything like that.
Now, I will tell you, I have a penchant for picking very processed cheese items sometimes.
Yes, that's not as appealing. I would not pick that, but I would pick a brie, for example, over a donut if I were in a cravey mood.
Oh, interesting. And so the thing about the pasteurized cheese products, they contain all the crap that are ultimately in a donut. You know what I mean? Which is why I go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not to say that they don't have their place, but their place is not usually in my house, I have to say.
I love you. Is there a cheesy donut? Didn't we do something about a cheesy donut or something? Didn't we talk about that once? Some recipe, some big recipe that's sweeping the world called cheesy donuts? Oh, it was some grilled cheese donuts that we talked about in one of our podcasts.
Right. It was using donuts as a bun, like a hamburger bun, but instead of for grilled cheese.
Yeah.
No way. I do not want that. And I think one of the reasons I love cheese so much is that it is fundamentally more savory than sweet, even though there are sweet notes to some of it. And I am more of a savory person. Mm-hmm. And, all right. The other reason I love it is how incredibly variable it is. It is weird to me that we can look at something like fresh ricotta and then something else like aged cheddar and that they're both called cheese, that they're both called the same thing. It really doesn't seem. Paneer is cheese, but you'd never compare paneer to brie, So there's so much variety. It seems like cheating to say cheese is my favorite food because cheese is thousands of foods.
Oh, I get that. Interesting. Okay.
So there's this website, you guys, called cheese.com that Rick and I both neither of us knew about, but we both discovered. And if you want some nice cheese porn, go to cheese.com, y'all. It has information about over 1,800 kinds of cheese.
Hours of my life I will never, ever get back.
It tells you the texture, the milk, the notes, how acidic it is, what the rind is like, how it was made, how to store it, what its origin is. It is the most remarkable thing. And
it's going to be really helpful because a lot of times when I eat cheese, I'm like, I can't quite identify a flavor. And that website, I'm like, oh, my God, this will be the perfect website to break down what I'm actually experiencing.
Right. And if you want to find something else like it, well, okay, what I've learned from this is I like things that are nutty and whatever, sharp, or whatever they might call it. So in their little texture section, one of the ways they break down cheese is by texture. I love texture. I'm very much a texture person when it comes to eating. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to really quick read through the various textures that they have for cheese. Are you ready?
Yes.
Brittle, buttery, chalky, chewy, close, compact, creamy, crumbly, crystalline, dense, dry, elastic, firm, flaky, fluffy, grainy, oily, open, runny, semi-firm, smooth, soft ripened, spreadable, springy, sticky, stringy, and supple.
Oh, God. Do you have a cigarette you can give me after this? I'm exhausted.
I know. How can you not love a food that has that many varieties? And
what was one of the early ones you said? Did you say close?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't look into that. I don't know what that means. But
interesting.
Tightly packed as opposed to crumbly, I would imagine.
Okay.
And then there's the types of cheese, which is fresh, soft, fresh, firm, soft, semi-soft, semi-hard, hard, semi-firm, and firm.
Now you just have to buy me a drink.
Well, wait. You're not going to want it after this last one. These are all the milks that we have. So normally cheese is made for cow milk, and we're also familiar with goat milk and sheep milk, mostly in buffalo, because buffalo mozzarella, which did you all know buffalo mozzarella really does come from buffalo milk? I think a lot of people don't think that that's true, but it really does.
Years ago, I thought that went around that, it doesn't come from buffaloes.
I know. It's like buffalo wings. Right?
Yeah.
Poor little buffaloes, yeah.
Those tiny animals out in the field.
Exactly, with their little bitty wings.
Oh, they don't fly anymore.
But apparently, cheese.com tells us that we have buffalo, camel, cow, goat, mare, moose, reindeer, sheep, water buffalo, yak, and my personal favorite, donkey.
Sweet baby Jesus.
There is actually donkey cheese.
Yeah.
And it's called Pule.
Pule.
It's from Serbia, and it's crumbly.
And it's considered the most expensive cheese.
Really? That's right.
It's valued at $600 per pound. Get this. It's so expensive because there are only 100 jennies. Now, those are the female donkeys that are milked for the poulet making. It takes 3 gallons of milk to create 1 pound of cheese.
I feel like I want to do something for those jennies.
I just gave thanks because when you read through that list of where we get the milk from, as you were doing it, I was just filled with gratitude. I'm like, thank you, animals. Thank you for creating something, and giving it to us or allowing us to take it, I should say.
Right. Yeah, we'll go with that. Exactly.
The other thing I read in that same information about the poulet is moose cheese. Moose cheese costs around $420 per pound. Get this, since each milking takes 2 hours and must be done in complete silence. Now, as much research as I could do, I couldn't find out why the silence.
I posted an article that you will see in the next 2 weeks on our Facebook page about moose cheese. So the answer
Guys,
may
things
be
are going down on our Facebook page about cheese. Thanks to Kate.
I've been saving all these cheese posts for the next 2 weeks. Every single day is a cheese post.
Kate's been so excited about her cheese post collection.
I have, and I'm like, I'm just going to wait till the cheese episode and post all of them. Yeah, right. I have so many thoughts about milking the moose in silence. I just don't even have the words, though.
Exactly.
There's a lot to be said.
If anyone knows why we milk moose in silence, please let me know. Mooses? Would it be
I think
plural?
it's moose.
Moose in the sky.
I
in silence.
suspect.
Let us know.
1 moose, 2 moose. I don't know. My family always says meese. I don't know.
I was going to say meese as a joke.
Exactly. Well, we say it as a joke. Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Oh.
They also have on this cheese.com site, they also have tons of options for vegetarian cheese. Because why is cheese not normally vegetarian? Would you like to tell us about that, Rick?
Milk from animals?
No, because that is still vegetarian.
Oh, not vegetarian.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's the rennet.
Right. The bacteria.
Yeah, so rennet is an enzyme that's produced in a calf's stomach. And apparently you cannot get that enzyme from the calf's stomach while the calf is still living. So the animal is killed for this enzyme, and that's what makes it a non-vegetarian product.
Right. And this will bring us to sort of, when we were talking about the history of cheese, this sort of brings us to probably the most important thing about the history of cheese that we care about, which is the way cheese sort of it was created sort of out of an accident. When shepherds would be carrying around bladders that they had cut out from their animals, and they stored their milk in the bladders of these animals. And it mixed with said bacteria, which is what made everything start to coagulate. It would break down the milk in the bladder and cause everything to coagulate. And then when they opened up this bladder, they'd have this substance that had been formed.
Curds and whey, we would now call it.
Curds and whey.
Yeah, that is an apocryphal story about the origins of cheese, but it makes as much sense as anything else. It had to be something practical.
Yes, exactly. Practical is the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that about mead, too. Somebody accidentally had honey in a thing, and eventually they tasted it and it became alcohol. You know, it's the same idea.
Right,
right. The rennet breaks things down into curds and whey.
And, I mean, the oldest it goes, they think, is somewhere back to, like, maybe 2300, 3000 BC. They did some carbon dating on some earthenware that they found in, I think it was Egypt, and there's remnants of cheese. So best conjecture is 2300 to 3000 BC is where it dates back to.
I want to know how they... No, I didn't look. I'm just interested to know how they figured that out. How they were like, oh, this is cheese on this earthenware.
Carbon dating, they said.
But how do they know it's... I understand that's how they know the age, but how do they know it was cheese?
That's a great question.
I'm sure they have a way. I'm sure that they... If you guys know this, please tell us, because I'm very curious. Yeah, no, I didn't look too hard into it, but it predates recorded history, and the one thing I did happen to catch is that Pecorino Romano apparently dates back to the Roman times when it was part of the staple diet of the soldiers at war.
And again, one of these things, sort of like when we talked about salt in the salt episode, how valuable cheese was at one point, both as a commodity, because when you had to when you're taking over the world and have to fill hundreds of thousands of Roman soldiers, cheese was very portable. And it had great protein. It kept them lively. It kept them active, and they could carry it forever or for very long distances and feed large amounts of people on not a lot of cost.
Because that combination of the protein and the fat is filling.
Yes, exactly.
When I'm slow on the draw and I need something to chaw, I hanker for a hunk of cheese.
All right, so we're here at Beecher's Handmade Cheese, and we're about to do a cheese tasting. One of which is the handmade fresh cheese curds. So we feel like we have ownership of these in the Midwest.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wisconsin is all about the cheese curds. I was unaware that they existed outside Wisconsin.
I can't say that they've done a lot of cheese curds.
They're known to be squeaky.
Tough chew.
It is indeed a little squeaky. That is their nature.
Reminds me of a chilled mozzarella. Firm.
It's definitely super salty. It tastes like salt and milk.
And this says that it is bite-sized nuggets of fresh cheese, also known as squeaky cheese, pasteurized fresh cheese from Seattle, Washington, full-flavored with a clean, milky taste.
It was enjoyable, but I don't feel the need to buy it.
Yeah. I could not eat a lot of that.
Right. All right, now we're going to try the cheddar. You already ate yours.
I did.
Do you need another one?
I'm going to get another one.
Okay.
The line is bananas.
Oh, my God. The cheddar has those little bits of rennet in it, so it crunches. Like it's got little tiny flakes, which I believe is rennet when it has that crunchy quality. And then it melts in your mouth. super creamy, super sharp.
Nice.
I love it.
I second that.
I think we should get some of that.
Okay. Sold. The cheddar that we just tasted, it's their flagship cheese. They say it's their signature cheese, a unique, robust cow's milk cheese in a class all by itself. Pasteurized, aged at least 15 months in Seattle, Washington. Semi-sharp, rich, and nutty, and notes of brown butter and a slightly crumbly texture. A cross between cheddar and Gruyere. I would agree with that. Yeah.
This sheep's milk cheese is almost $12 for this piece.
Oh my God.
Question. Hello there. So I want to buy a couple of cheeses to go on a cheese plate, and I know that the one that already is going to exist is called the Lisa Bourgogne. It's like a really rich brie, like triple cream soft cheese.
Cool.
What would be two good ones to add to that to make a nice plate?
So one of my personal favorites that we make is an extra age flagship right down here.
Extra age.
It's about 4 years old.
What
Well,
we
about
tested
15 months. 2.5 years older.
Okay, great.
It's going to be really sharp. It's going to be the richest, sharpest cheddar we have.
Fantastic.
So I'm a big fan of that one.
Cool.
If you like blues,
Yeah.
if you like blues, I'm a big fan of the Beecher blue down here.
Okay.
That's going to have a nice buttery, subtle flavor to it. It's going to be the least salty of all our foods. I'll still pack in a little bit of punch there. So I'm a big fan of that.
Cool.
How big is the punch on that one, would you say?
It's going to be the most mild that we have, but blues are a mild blue, still pretty salty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and those would be a good combo, yeah?
Those will match up.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you right here.
Great.
Do you want to get these?
Yeah.
Well, a 10-gallon, that's a feeling 5 gallons flat.
And in parts of Italy, particularly in Sardinia, there's one bank that still will take cheese as a form of payment for any money or loan that you owe them because it's still so valuable.
What? Like cheese from the Jewel? Like from the grocery store?
No, cheese that a farmer might bring in. Yes, cheese from the Jewel in Sardinia. Now, the Jewel is right next to the Safeway.
I see. So
and
homemade
the Safeway's
cheese.
right next to the La Quinta.
Wow. Well, that's very cute. That's sweet that they do that.
Isn't that interesting?
That is fascinating.
Okay,
also,
can I just
yes.
jump in? Now that we're on just sort of the history of cheese.
Yeah.
This is an interesting story. So there was a really old, so in France, one of the oldest and most historic French cheese factories was destroyed last year by a tornado. Yeah, apparently all that was left was debris.
Rick.
Get it?
Oh, honey. That was okay. It was good. I was waiting for some sort of cheese puns, but that was better than I was fearing. So that was good.
It might take a little bit to land. I almost caved in and started laughing, but I'm like, let's see if this lands.
No, I didn't see it coming. That was good.
Okay. Are you trying to say that sometimes jokes I tell on this podcast you can see coming?
No, of course not. Never, no.
Okay. Oh, that's so good of you.
Oh, come on now.
This is the joke section.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm ready. Okay,
No,
more.
actually,
Okay.
no, we're done.
I know. It does get a little cheesy. So
Oh,
I learned, well, I didn't learn. I was reminded that I store cheese wrong all the time.
Tell me.
That you're not supposed to wrap it in saran wrap and then in other things to keep it airtight, to keep the air out of it, like I always do. You're supposed to store it loosely in waxed or grease-proof paper. There's actually something called cheese paper. And my mom gave me years ago these little things called cheese bags that were like waxed on the inside, and you're supposed to just put the cheese in it and fold it over. And it's not airtight. You actually want the air in there, and you don't want it to be as tightly wrapped as as I would think.
That is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I'm going to dig those out. I think I still have those cheese wrappers, and so next time I do a cheese plate, I'll figure that out. I'll try them. And also, this is something I'm obsessed with in terms of serving cheese. People mock me for my obsession with this, but the cheese in the fridge really should be taken out 1.5 to 2 hours before you're going to eat it to get the full flavor of it. Anything cold, you can't taste it the same way. But cheese is really important. And people in Europe and even England are like, why do you all refrigerate your cheese? Cheese does not belong ever in the fridge.
Agreed. Sort of the same thing with butter, too, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. Get that cheese out well before you're going to serve it.
Yeah. So, y'all, take it out. I promise it's worth it.
Kate, do you hear something on the recording? Oh, that's ice in a glass. That's Janice coming in, our producer. Sorry.
Oh, is she stumbling again?
She's stumbling because she's been drinking again, and she's sort of walking towards me, and she has one eye closed like she's permanently winking, and she has her finger in front of her lips and is sort of miming to me.
I'm picturing her walking like Mrs. Wiggins, like Carol Burnett's character.
Drunk Mrs. Wiggins.
In her little pencil skirt.
Well, she reminded me, it's quiz time, quiz time, quiz time.
I was hoping there'd be a quiz. Someone has actually asked me about this recently. I do not know when there's going to be a quiz, and we have definitely not discussed these in advance.
Kate loves games, and I love providing her enjoyment with games.
He's so good to me.
All right, first question. Which country holds the record for the largest cheese? A, Canada. B, United States. C, France.
Well, it's an interesting question. Like, first of all, I want to say United States because we're just that way. It feels like we're just the kind of people who would be like, we're going to make the largest of whatever it is. And then, of course, France, they really do have the largest per capita cheese consuming in France, but it doesn't seem like they would waste their time on such a large cheese. Canada's tempting because it's a little bit less predicted. I'll go with Canada.
Ding, 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 you win. Very good.
Thank you.
The Canadians hold the record for the largest cheese, a 57,000-pound monster made in Ontario. And now this is not to be confused with the largest cheese sculpture, Kate, which is 1,524 pounds, nor is this to be confused with the largest cheese slice, which weighs 298 pounds, nor is it to be confused with the largest cheese board, weighing in at 4,437 pounds. This is the largest thing of cheese roll, like ball or whatever you would say, right?
Wow.
Just the biggest thing of cheese. And
do we know what kind of cheese it is?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
It did not say. What's so funny is this cheese dethroned what was, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, as the largest cheese. The largest cheese used to be a famed cheese, which was at the Heine's, I think that's how you say it, Heine's Cheese Cellar near Berlin, Ohio. And unfortunately, this 10-ton piece of cheese, it was a mix of 27 different varieties of cheddar. It expired when someone accidentally unplugged the refrigerated kiosk in the 1990s.
Oh.
Can you imagine being that guy?
No. He's had to change his identity and go into witness protection.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just not cool. That just made me think of those giant wheels of Parmigiano Reggiano where they make the pasta in them.
Yes.
Have you ever had that?
No.
Oh my God, I want that so bad. Do you guys know what we're talking
so
about? They cut the top off these wheels of cheese and scoop them out so that there's still like they make a bowl out of a wheel of cheese, and then they make a hot pasta dish in there so it just melts all the cheese and gets it all in there, and oh my goodness.
It looks heavenly. Heavenly.
Yeah.
All right, Kate, question number 2. What is the special ingredient in the highly specialized cheese, casu marzu? Is it A, worms, B, fruit flies, C, maggots?
Can you spell it?
C-A-S-U, second word, M-A-R-Z-U. She's thinking.
I am. I'm sorry. I'm thinking maggots.
Yes, very good. Ding, 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 ding.
Thank you.
So this is a cheese from Sardinia. It has maggots in it. And oddly enough, it's been outlawed by the European Union Food Hygienic Health Regulations Council. However, it is still made and sold on the black market. And it's considered by the Sardinian aficionados to be unsafe to eat when the maggots in the cheese have died. So the maggots still have to be alive.
Oh.
And
wow. my goodness.
It really redefines the word rich, right? That's rich. It has to be, it's created by leaving pecorino cheeses outside with part of the rind removed to allow the eggs of the cheese fly, Piophilia casei, to be laid in the cheese. A female of these flies can lay more than 500 eggs at one time. The eggs hatch, and the larvae begin to eat through the cheese. And the acid from the maggots' digestive system breaks down the cheese's fats, making the texture very soft. And by the time it's ready for consumption, it'll contain thousands of maggots. And there's videos on YouTube that you can see people cutting the cheese open, and they're like, oh, there are the maggots. And then they scoop them up, put them on a cracker, eat them.
Wow.
Only here will you be finding out the real information.
That's
Kate's
right.
sitting there with her hands over her mouth in front of her.
Yeah, I'm a little, I'm not a fan of the maggot cheese. I don't want that.
It's a tough one. All right, Kate, question number 3. So this is good. You're 2 for 2 so far.
I am.
Over 25% of cheese in the U.S. is made in Wisconsin. The rest mostly comes from California, Idaho, and New York. More than half the nation's artisan cheese is made in Wisconsin. With that in mind, how many dairy cows are there in the state of Wisconsin alone?
Oh, Lord.
A, 1,265,000. B, 1,425,000.
Wait, you mean 1 million?
1 million, yes. 1,425,000. C, 1,600,000.
All right, 1.2, 1.4, 1.6. I don't know. I'm rolling the dice on that one. 1.4.
No, it's 1.265.
Wow.
Wisconsin people, they don't call themselves cheeseheads for anything. Not only do they make a lot of cheese, but they make the good cheese, they say. And interesting enough, this state wins over half the prizes and ribbons, are you ready for this, at the U.S. Champion Cheese Contest each year, which I found out about on cheese.com. It's coming up this March 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's a 3-day event, open to the public.
In Wisconsin?
Yes. And it's an international event. Everyone brings their cheese, and they have this highly skilled panel of judges that go around judging cheeses. And then if you buy a ticket, you can actually go around sampling everything. Doesn't that sound awesome?
Oh, my God. I can drive to some parts of Wisconsin from here.
Oh, my God, right. I was like, we'll have to plan a big trip there, but you're right. You can drive there.
Yeah, to some parts of Wisconsin. It depends. Sometimes it's too far for a day trip, but there's a place called Mars Cheese Castle that everyone knows about in Wisconsin, but that sounds amazing. Wow.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yes, Kate, so you win. You get 2 out of 3, so you win.
Yay! Thank you. I thought I was waiting for the end. Yay!
Yay!
Hey, speaking of not wanting to try the maggot cheese, are there any cheeses that you don't like?
Isn't that interesting, Kate? Interesting.
I will say the only one I don't love is Swiss cheese, and it's not really a cheese. It's like sort of a made-up version of Gruyere, I think, and so it's a weird situation.
It's an imitation.
So, yeah, it's an imitation weird thing. So I don't love that, but there are certain things I've become fond of it on. There's certain sandwiches and stuff where I can tolerate it, but I don't love it. But I think that's the only one I don't like.
You know, there is, and I know what it is. I have to think about it because I literally can't put it in my mouth. I hate the taste. But that brings me back to what I had at the top of my list is I thought a lot about what my favorite cheeses are. And my favorite cheeses came in with Saint Andre being one of my favorites. And these are like on a practical issue, ones that are always going to be around me, easy to get, that I like to eat. Saint Andre, which is a triple cream milk cheese, cow milk cheese. The second one is Manchego, which is produced in this, it's a Spanish cheese. And then my third, sheep's milk. And my third is Munster. I just throw it in. I just like it. I like it, which is a whole cow's milk cheese.
Yeah, and I find Port Salut is sort of like the fancy person's Munster. It's like Munster meets Brie or Camembert or something.
Port Salut's a good one, Kate. Really good one.
In that ballpark. Yeah, I don't think I could choose a favorite. It's like a favorite child. I don't think I can.
What's so funny is when you ask me about a cheese I don't like, there is one, and it's so funny. I can sort of smell it. And I know what it's like in my mouth, but I can't remember the name. Hopefully by the end of the episode I will. When
we were on the barge cruise, if you listen to our show, you know that Rick and I went on this amazing barge cruise in Burgundy, France, Oh, my gosh, like a year and a half ago. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's an episode about it. You can listen to
there's
also.
at least one. And then we had a bunch of cheeses, like a million cheeses. They served a cheese course every night with 3 cheeses. And so we had like 21 cheeses or more because there was ones with lunch. So we tried a lot. There was one that I didn't care for. And I don't remember what it was, but it was some French cheese I'd never heard of in the first place, so I'm never going to come up with that.
And you're really right. When you look at that trip, we tried so many new cheeses every day. We were just putting them down. I mean, there were some that we loved better than others, but very rarely did we come across one with just can't eat it.
Yeah, totally. Hey, what cheeses would you eat if you were lactose intolerant? Did you discover this?
I did discover this. I forget what I discovered about it. What I did discover about it is there's lactose intolerant, but there's also people that are lactose persistent. Did you hear about this?
No.
That they have a high, God, I wish I wrote it down. I didn't. But apparently it's your people. It's your people from Britain and England. Mm-hmm. Your people in England, that they somehow have this ability to digest a large amount of cheese. And it doesn't bother them.
Me. That is very clearly me.
But I don't know what I would eat, actually.
Yeah, the ones with the lowest lactose tend to be the aged hard cheeses, like your cheddar, your parmesan, things like that. Just a little sidebar, if anyone has lactose issues, those are your safest bets.
This I thought was interesting, that Gouda accounts for over half of the world's cheese consumption.
Really? No! No, I'm really shocked. I would have thought cheddar by far would have been a more popular cheese than Gouda.
50 to 60%.
As they say.
50 to 60%. Of the cheese consumed.
I'm dubious about that. That seems nuts.
You need to check out cheese.com, our new love.
Was it from there?
Yes.
Well, maybe they're wrong. I don't know.
and Amazon too. It's on Amazon sites too. Because it's so sold.
Gouda?
It's one of the best-selling cheeses. I guess they should.
Oh, I am stunned. Well, it's true that when I was in Amsterdam, there were a lot more kinds of Gouda than I knew. Mm-hmm. So my mother grew up in London during the World War II era, and the cheese came over then, and they, in order to teach them how to pronounce it, they had little ad campaigns, because Gouda is the closest to the actual pronunciation. We don't say it that way. We say Gouda, but Gouda is closer because it is actually Gouda or something like that. But their campaign was Gouda rhymes with Lauda. Which, if you're English, makes sense because it's a word. I'm like, here. So now every time I hear someone say Gouda, I think in my head, Gouda rhymes with Lauda. And I didn't even hear that. That was my mother's voice, but I'm hearing it in my head.
I love that. Hi, Patricia. Thanks for listening.
Yay. Thanks, Mom. Oh, if she can figure it out, she might listen. All right.
Kate is the tech envoy to her mother. Kate is in charge of all things tech for her mom. And little did I know on the last trip that Kate now has a mobile tech service, that she actually does tech service in the car. So when her mother's careening around Curds, Kate still has to be solving all the problems with her phone and computer.
I was trying to hook her phone up so she could listen to the podcast on her drives out to her house, but I doubt it's ever going to happen again.
Oh, Kate, I just found this note. It just says, this is from the Science of Cheese. A northern Italian bank uses Parmesan as loan collateral. That's
well, a wheel of Parmigiano Reggiano actually has great value. That would be why.
Nowadays,
see. Yeah. It's Parmigiano Reggiano is expensive. Oh, I love that. That's delightful.
Cheese is a super snack.
This is an interview I did with my two friends, Kathy and Rachel. We were in the car during the interview, which accounts for the noise.
Do you eat cheese every day? No. I don't either. I think I go long periods of time with no cheese. How do you feel about blue cheese?
Oh, I like blue cheese. You take some blue cheese, you put it on the salad with some balsamic vinegar, some pecans, and then craisins or raisins on a bed of spring wheat. Love it so much.
I like the wedge salad with blue cheese on it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
That's good.
That's one of my favorites.
You were never drawn to cheese, Rachel?
Not particularly, no.
Interesting. I think you're one of the few people that might ever have said that to me.
I could kind of live without cheese, except if I go in a restaurant with a wedge salad, I'm going to order it because blue cheese, right?
Right.
Okay, so feta cheese?
Love feta cheese.
Me too.
So salty and briny.
Oh my gosh. So there's this whole thing about my grandmother used to make one of my grandmother's macaroni and cheese contained Velveeta. Yum. And my mom co-opted the cheese whiz instead of the Velveeta.
That's wrong.
I feel like cheese whiz for macaroni and cheese is freaking criminal. There needs to be a law.
Cheese whiz is criminal. Girls in my dorm used to eat it.
What is that about?
They would just like squirt it right onto their mouth.
I think I don't know what it is. I have passionately feel that cheese whiz is just enough. But Velveeta, why am I like okay with mixing the Velveeta with the cheddar?
It's creamy goodness, man.
Velveeta, not the same as cheese whiz. I don't think people should take the time to melt the Velveeta.
What is the who came up with whiz?
I have no idea.
I mean, that's what you do in the woods. I'm gonna go take a whiz.
Whiz and cheese should not be associated with each other in any way.
I mean, how Freudian is that? All these college girls starting cheese whiz in their mouth.
No, y'all, I'm getting kind of hungry. We're sitting here talking about this cheese.
I know, right? We're going to hit something up here.
I'm eating chips. Yeah. Anybody want some chips?
No, but I would have a handful of peanuts if you don't mind passing them.
They don't have any chips. Don't have any cheese on them.
God damn it.
Hanker for a hunk of cheese. Yahoo!
So, we know some things about cheese being good for you. Just a few.
We do, just a few.
So, it creates good bacteria in the gut, as well as metabolites, which help you metabolize. And even though French people eat the most cheese of anybody per capita, coronary artery disease is relatively low in France. So it's hard to say that that's a thing. And it has a lot of calcium, which is another good thing, in protein, of course. But there was this huge study. Somebody did a literature review, and they basically said most clinical studies showed that full-fat natural cheese, a highly fermented product, significantly lowers bad cholesterol compared with butter intake of equal total fat and saturated fat content. So you can't compare cheese and butter. They're totally different. No. But that the cohort studies found no significant association between intake of total full-fat dairy products and the risk of CDH or coronary heart disease or stroke.
I love that.
It may not be bad for us in the way that they say. I find it fascinating that it's fermented because, in general, I don't love fermented foods, but there's a few that are my favorites, so I find that really weird.
And I think it's so interesting because one of the things that it gets us back to this whole conversation you and I've had a long time we've had it several times, that eat real fat.
Yeah.
It always comes back to that. This whole thing, that sort of real fat. It seems they're debunking year after year that the real fat is what you should not be eating, not all the fake fat.
Yeah. And
I had found on the Modern Marvels website that 1 ounce of cheese, 7 times the protein of milk, 5 times the amount of calcium. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
I'm like, no wonder I like it so much, particularly not being a meat eater.
Yeah. Eatingwell.com says much research explains the so-called French paradox, which is what I just described. So it can cut your heart disease risk, which we've already talked about. It can fend off type 2 diabetes because partly it's the calcium, which helps with insulin stuff, and then the shorter chain saturated fats are generally linked to less diabetes.
That sounds great. I need to eat some immediately.
And whey proteins might play a role because they increase insulin sensitivity.
Nice.
It helps you dodge death, apparently. They did this huge, long study for 15 years that eating about 2 ounces of cheese a day was associated with a 38% lower likelihood of dying in general during this 15-year study.
Brilliant.
In men. So there you go. It actually improves your cholesterol. It's one of those things like eggs. Remember how eggs were vilified for so long because of all the cholesterol, and then they were like, oh, whoops. They might have cholesterol when you study the egg, but it doesn't translate into cholesterol in your body. Turns out that might be true of cheese as well.
I'm sure it is. Makes perfect sense.
And these are decent studies, nutrition reviews and things like that, and then it can make you stronger. The protein's casein boosts muscle mass.
Brilliant. One thing I wanted to chime in based on what you said about the French is I found this really great quote. It says from Charles de Gaulle, who was, in charge of France for, a period.
Yes.
He says, How can you govern a country which has 246 varieties of cheese?
Probably even more. Do you
Exactly.
remember that thing from when we were a kid in the cartoons? When your 10-gallon hat's feeling 5 gallons hat.
Oh, my
Flat,
God.
a hanker for a hunk of cheese.
I do remember that. That's so funny. What is that from?
It was a whole little cartoon, little PSA thing back when they were doing Conjunction Junction and that kind of stuff.
Conjunction Junction.
There was this whole thing about having cheese as a healthy snack.
I remember that.
I forgot about it till right this second. Something you just said made me think about it.
Thank God it was stored somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kate, did you know that cheese is the most stolen food on Earth?
No.
Yeah, isn't this interesting? According to the Center for Retail Research in the homeland of your people, Britain, 4% of the world's cheese ends up stolen, which is high enough to have it pegged as a high-risk food for retailers. Isn't that interesting? Makes sense.
Fascinating. Well, I guess it's small and it's pricey, and if you're desperate, it goes a long way to help fill you and nourish you.
It's nutritious, yeah, and it's easy. I think it's probably one of the easiest things to get out of the supermarket, I would think. That's what I say.
Well, so if you're planning to make a cheese board now after this episode, let's talk about what you might want to put on it. What do you think goes on a perfect cheese board, Rick?
Oh, my gosh. This is a great question. I've never really been good because I don't particularly think when I'm assembling cheeses, I'm not particularly thinking about the totality of how they all fit together. I tend to be more individualistic about my cheese choices.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to say definitely hard.
Mm-hmm. Like a cheddar or a manchego.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say a soft, like a Port Salut. I would do goat cheese, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to say I would want a cow milk, a sheep milk, and then I'm trying to think.
Well, how many are you putting on there?
Three or
okay,
4.
Okay.
Yeah, so finding some combination of all.
700.
700.
Mm-hmm. Which I've done.
That's the one thing I love about visiting Kate in Chicago. She always puts out a good cheese spread.
I went through a long I guess it's not over. My Facebook picture is still, I think, a cheese board. I might have just moved my Facebook banner from being a cheese board. It had been that for a while. Yeah, from Christmas. Yeah, I agree. I think we want one soft like a brie or a camembert. I like a blue on there if people like blue, and you could do a cambazola, which is like a sort of camembert gorgonzola blend, which is amazing. Definitely a hard cheese like a cheddar or a manchego, and then some combination, I agree, in there. Yeah, Port Salut is good on there. And then figs or fig spread, grapes, apples, pears are really good with it. When I was taking these cheese boards seriously, I would toast some walnuts, and then when they came out, I would drizzle them with honey and salt and maybe a little rosemary. And those are really good.
Nice.
And then I make these marinated sun-dried tomatoes with garlic and a bunch of like basil and other herbs. Like a little oregano and other herbs and stuff, and packed in oil.
Also really good.
Those are really good with brie. And then I like a classic baguette and some very plain crackers. I'm a fan of those little tiny square sort of toasty crackers. I don't know if they have a name, but they have very little flavor of their own.
Right.
It can be fun to have flavored crackers as well, depending on the cheeses. But if you're really trying to highlight the cheeses, I think simple plain crackers, and I like the option of both the crunch and the baguette, depending on the cheese.
I agree. I was going to say, because one of the things the cracker does is it provides a contrast generally to the cheese, which I love in my cheeses, the cheese texture and the cracker texture.
Yeah, and we don't even have time to talk about wine and beverage pairings, but another day.
I do want to when you just made me think about it, I was thinking in all my research, I realized this whole difference that you and I talked a lot about in that episode when we went to France on the barge trip. The whole difference between, cheese over there and cheese here is that our cheese is pasteurized. And one of the things you always see in all of these shows and all these, whatever clips about cheese is that how we got all this milk and they heat it up to such a degree to kill all the bacteria. And then they just have to re-enter bacteria. Yeah. And it reminded me of, it wrote down this really great quote that this guy had said. Basically, cheese is about controlled spoilage. I love that idea.
Yeah, it is. Maybe that's part of why we love it, is that there's the danger. Like, if it went wrong, it would be so gross. There is so much potential for cheese to be disgusting. Like, if we really think about it, it's sort of gross, really.
It's weird.
Yeah, and so, controlled spoilage. I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, well.
Cheese and go forth.
Cheese forth, everyone, and please rate and review us so that other people can find our podcast. Follow us on all the social medias.
Please go to the Facebook page and like all of Kate's awesome cheese posts. They're going to flood in, baby.
And if you have any of your own that we're missing, go ahead and contribute. That'd be fun. All right. Thank you.